what is an impact assessment? So see, the GDPR follows a risk-based approach. The GDPR is not very extensive and elaborate. It sees risk as they come. So a risk-based approach has three things: determining the risk profile, implementing effective risk control, and balance the residual risk. So you see what the risk is, like what kind of risk is there, high risk, low risk, and to what data is the risk. When you have personal, so three steps: determining the risk profile. When you see a risk profile, how do you determine? The first is that what level of risk is to your data. Is it high risk? Is it medium risk? It is low risk. It will all depend on the organization you're working with and the data you're dealing with and the processing you're supposed to carry out. So there's no general answer for this, that how will I determine it? It is very specific and it will relate to the atmosphere you are working in and you're processing data. I am working in a bank. I am dealing with a lot of financial data. So when I determine a risk profile, I have to see that, when we are sending mails, what I will, earlier, we would also send in the account number or probably the social security number or some other information that was related to accounts. That is highly risky. So now what will we do? We'll try and implement effective risk control. What will be an effective risk control? That when I send a mail to my customer, I will not send the social security number. I will write only last two digits of the account number or the first two digits of the account number. And even then, when I feel that, there something else needs to be balanced, then I'll look at my technical and organizational measures, that what do I have in store, that when I'm processing this data or when I'm storing this financial data, how are they stored that nobody can breach it, or if there is a breach, we can at least control the breach and there's minimum loss of data, things like that. So determining the risk profile, whether it is high, low, or medium, will depend on the organization you're working with and the personal data you're dealing with. Once you've determined that, then you will know what effective risk controls are there. Because while determining the risk, what will you find? You'll find the lacunas in the system, that if we do this, then we'll be more privacy compliant. And when you know that, you already know what are the effective measures that you have to take to ensure that privacy is implemented, compliance is implemented. And if there are certain things you feel that even after following the GDPR guidelines, or sending pseudonymized information or not sending the social security number or the account number is not enough, there's still some risk to the data, then you move on to your organizational and technical measures and you see that how is the data going. Is the mail going encrypted? A lot of you, if you filed your income tax or something, you cannot see the information from income tax. You either have to fill in your PAN number or you get a mail, you get a link, and to log into that, you have to either put in your PAN number or you have to put in your date of birth, and only then certain information comes, either from income tax or other places, many government websites that come. So those are the means to protect it, that only those who have this information can see that data. There are many mails which are visible only once, that they're confidential mails and you can open it only once. You open it with a PAN number or some account number or a social security number or your date of birth, something like that. But you can view it only once. You do not have the option to view it again, or you can view it only on one device. If you've opened it on your laptop, you cannot open it on your phone. If you open it on your phone, you cannot view it on your laptop. So it's something like that. So these are the measures that are taken, and these can be, the residual risk measures also that are taken. So as I stated above that earlier, that DPIA is required only when the processing is likely to result in high risk to the rights and freedoms of individual. When a data controller and a data processor feels that this kind of processing can be very high risk of processing, we are having medical data or financial data and you're processing that data, then in that case, or if we are saving data on a global cloud service provider without making it pseudonymized data or without encrypting that data, then in those cases, it's pertinent that you have a DPIA. The GDPR formally doesn't define the concept of DPIA, but there are certain measures that it has given, and we will read about it, in the latest slides. But it somewhere talks about it, that these are the important things you must have, or these are the basic things you must have when you're making a data protection impact assessment. Like recital 84 says that in order to enhance compliance with this regulation is GDPR here. So in order to enhance compliance with GDPR, where processing operations are likely to result in high risk. So the first part is you do a DPIA to ensure enhanced compliance with GDPR. And when does it happen? When the processing operation is likely to result in high risks to rights and freedoms of natural persons. So it's likely to result. You don't have to have a proof that it will. A mere apprehension that this is likely to result in high risk, you have to do a DPIA there. The controller should be responsible for carrying out a data protection impact assessments, because it is a controller who decides how and why the data has to be processed. So this liability falls on the controller to do it, that the controller will do it. So the controller to carry out a data protection impact assessment to evaluate in particular the origin, nature, particularity and severity of the risk. So what is the origin of the risk? What is the nature of the risk? When we say particularity, we also talk about what is the characteristic of that risk and how severe it is. So all that has to be done through a data processing impact assessment, and a DPIA should be done before processing begins. So once you have ensured that if we process data this way, the risks are less, we have been able to mitigate the risk, and the residual risk is being handled through organizational and technical measures, you can begin your processing.